Oh, I could have never foreseen this drama occurring, and yet here we are. Look at us. What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla vs Kong news and updates. What a bunch of drama. Oof. This is surprising, and I didn't foresee it. I didn't anticipate it. There's a lot to run through here as well, so I'll run through as much as I can. Alright, Warner Bros has caught itself up in a bunch of drama following their recent HBO Max announcement. If those of you don't know, there is an announcement where all Warner Bros films coming out in 2021 will be coming out day and date releases, which means they will be coming out on streaming and in theaters at the same time. They will be coming out on HBO Max here in the United States only for 31 days before reverting back to a theatrical only experience for the rest of their theatrical run. Oh man, and the fallout of that decision is so much bigger than I could have ever thought it would have been that there's a lot to talk about. So I want to run through everything here. I've got all the articles linked down below for those of you interested. By the way, heads up, there is Godzilla vs Kong talk in this video, but this is a little bit more industry based. It's a little less specific on Godzilla vs Kong than most of my other videos. And also, for those of you who want more industry talk, I've got my sources linked down below. You can go check those out for the more global impacts of what's happening here, because I'm not going to be covering everything. There's too much to cover. All right, let me run through it, starting with Warner Bros. Plan. They state that this is a pandemic-only move, but many question if they will ever be able to go back to a theatrical-only experience post-2021, because once audiences acclimate to the day-and-date releases, will they ever be able to go back, and will they want to go back? Will AT&T, who owns Warner Media, will they want to go back to an original theatrical release only experience if this is successful? Probably not, because if this is successful, it will boost HBO Max subscriptions. That's what AT&T wants. That's what Warner Media needs. And so if that happens, there's probably limited chance that they will go back to theatrical only. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but that's mine as well as many other people's guesses. Is if this is a good play, if this is successful, if this pays off, this could be just the death of the theatrical experience. This deal was stated to be put in place because many theaters won't be open yet next year, and it will take a full year after the vaccine is released for things to get back to normal. So it seems like 2021 is going to be a wash just like 2020. However, they want content to come out during that period. This is their solution, the day and date release. Theater owners were caught off guard. They had very little prior warning, and it sounds like theaters are having to strike up new deals for sales distribution upon movies being released theatrically because they need to make up for the lack of money that they will be getting based on this Warner Bros. Move. Also, and this will be a reoccurring thing that we talk about because it's a big deal, Legendary, who co-financed Godzilla vs Kong, was not warned of this decision. Christopher Nolan took it upon himself to go to war with Warner Bros. Christopher Nolan, one of the most famous directors of our time. Nolan calls HBO Max the worst streaming service out there. He views the 2021 decision as a horrible mistake that betrays the industry and those in it. Warner Bros. 2021 move is being called a date that will live in infamy. It's being compared to the Pearl Harbor of film industry decisions. That's nuts. Does that mean that we are now in the ensuing World War II? Have we just entered that in the film industry? Because that's gonna be an interesting battle to watch play out. Almost the entire industry is mad at Warner for taking this action. There are lots of legal battles coming, and actors are pissed, so their back-end deals, which is when they get bonuses based on the box office returns of the movies, might need to be paid off early, or there might need to be different deals worked out for how these actors are going to be getting paid. I think directors sometimes also have back-end deals. I don't really know how all that works. I do know that a lot of actors are considering protesting promoting their movies that are coming out for Warner Bros. They're just not going to promote the films because they feel like they got screwed here, and rightfully so. They didn't get any heads up. Warner gave no one heads up. If they had given everybody heads up and talked this through with people, it would have made sense. Basically, it sounds like the reason Warner didn't give any heads up is because they knew pushback was coming, and this is just kind of a no budging scenario. Warner is just saying this, it's our way. It's not going to be any other way. There's no other way. There's no point in discussing. It's not open for debate. It is our way. And so they didn't give anybody heads up because they didn't want people to get mad. And it sounds like they maybe were worried that people were going to leak information. And so in order to avoid people leaking information and getting the public to turn against them early, they just made the announcement, announcement. We're like, this is how the celebrities find out as well. This is how the industry learns, is when we make the announcement. And Legendary's not too happy about that. Many believe that this move has been made in order to make up for the failed launch of HBO Max. Warner argues that this is just simply a reaction to COVID and that the global release of the films will still be intact, so it's all okay, which is kind of true. That's ignoring piracy and being intentionally naive, but it is still sort of true that international theaters are still going to be the ones with movies because they don't get HBO Max. HBO Max is, I believe, US exclusive for some reason. But yeah, the industry is fighting back by pointing out how high quality piracy is now unavoidable. You know, on day one, there's just going to be like 4K or 1080 releases of these movies, so there's going to be no point in paying for them. So it's just a losing situation. Warner did blindside the industry in order to avoid pushback before the announcement. Warner also, quote, shoveled millions to Wonder Woman in order to make up for this deal, and now all the other films are angry and waiting for those millions to be shoveled to them. They have 17 films coming out next year, and all 17 films are made by people who are now angry and waiting for their money. So negotiations have begun on all 17 films, it sounds like. Legendary was said to be the first to move against Warner Bros. After Warner rejected a now $225 million deal for Godzilla vs. Kong to go to Netflix. For those of you who don't know, Netflix bid for Godzilla vs. Kong. Sounds like they bid anywhere between $200 to $250 million for Godzilla vs. Kong. It depends on which source you look. Again, I have all my sources linked down below. They are all official. They're all actual news outlets, so it depends on where you go, but the prices vary, as we will see. It's going to be another recurring trend that the prices vary between which news outlet you go to. Legendary wasn't informed of the day and date release on HBO Max until the Warner Bros. Announcement. Dune is another Legendary film that is a big point of contention. It's arguably a bigger point of contention than Godzilla vs. Kong because it's slated to be a bigger movie. That one's supposed to make more money than Godzilla vs. Kong. The difference is Godzilla vs. Kong had a bid from Netflix that was outright rejected by Warner without Legendary getting any say in the deal. Warner was hoping that Disney would follow suit so that they wouldn't get as much flack for this release deal. It would also make them look like industry leaders, that Disney was now following them. Disney's investor meeting didn't bode so well the other day because Disney didn't do this. They didn't say, yeah, our films are coming out on Disney Plus and theatrically. They did not do that. They just said that there is content produced for Disney Plus, and that's the Disney Plus content. Some of the movies that were going to come out in theaters are now Disney Plus exclusives, but most of our movies are still theatrical exclusives. So Warner Bros. Is still out there on its own at the moment. Insiders point out how no streaming service has been able to produce a blockbuster film yet, and no streaming service has produced a franchise that can compete with theatrical releases, which is true. And that's a big problem. You don't want your franchises going to streaming because now they become streaming franchises rather than film franchises. There's a total difference. Industry insiders also point out how AT&T has no interest in their films' legacies. They don't care about what happens to Warner Bros. Films. All they're interested in is their legacy. What is the legacy of Warner Media going to be under their control? That's what they're interested in, and they're mostly interested in what is the legacy of HBO Max going to be. So yeah, they don't care about awards either. They don't really care about how streaming films don't usually get awards, and so they're not really worried about the reputation of their films. They're just interested in the money at the bottom line. All right, these details come from Variety, saying that Legendary might sue Warner Bros. Over Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong. Legendary financed 75% of Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, but was kept out of the loop on Warner Bros. Plans to send all 17 of their films to theaters and HBO Max and day and date releases. Godzilla vs. Kong is currently number 5 on Warner Bros. Slates for next year and is their first true blockbuster of the year. We don't know what's going to happen with that. That probably will change. I have a feeling Godzilla vs. Kong is going to get delayed because of this. I know you guys are hyped to hear that. Legendary is looking to solve the problem quietly without legal action, but the possibility's on the table. If Warner doesn't play ball, well then Legendary's looking into legal action. No legal suit has been filed yet, but one is simmering. And again, now it has been reported by Variety that Netflix offered for Godzilla vs. Kong months ago. Netflix wanted Godzilla vs. Kong months ago. For $250 million they bid, according to Variety. It's just outright rejected, which I think is probably the wise play. That's just me. I wouldn't have taken that deal either. Unless it was like $300 million, I wouldn't take that deal. Here's details from Deadline. This was a huge article. If you want to go check it out, go check it out. Not enough theaters are open now to warrant ad campaigns, which is why Warner Bros. Has not started advertising any of their upcoming releases outside of the ones that are such hot properties that need to be advertised, such as like Batman, and the ones that were already supposed to have come out, like Wonder Woman and Dune. That's why. Don't compare IPs, guys. Godzilla vs. Kong is significantly smaller than Batman. Believe it or not, Godzilla is still a pretty niche franchise, so maybe we should just stop pretending that we're the biggest franchise on Earth, because we aren't. So just be happy with what we get and hope for the best, and stop being so down on yourselves and the franchise all the time. How about some positivity for a change? If HBO HBO Max blows up based on this deal, then this deal will most likely stick around post-pandemic with the day and date releases. Legendary had a total of 30 minutes notice before Warner Media's 2021 announcement was made. That is insane that they got so little heads up. It's so disrespectful on Warner's part. Legendary is sending legal letters to Warner in order to challenge the Dune and Godzilla vs Kong Max deals, so we will see what happens with that. Legendary may have been willing to play ball with Netflix, but wasn't given a say in the matter. It's kind of like all the articles dance around that because no one really knows, but it sounds like that's what the articles are alluding to, that Legendary may have been willing to play ball at some capacity. Legendary is also worried that this will tarnish the reputation of their franchises moving forward, specifically Dune and Godzilla vs Kong. They're worried that if Godzilla vs Kong winds up on streaming, it will look weak. It will look like a weak streaming movie simply because it was put on streaming. Not because of the quality of the film, but just because of the stigma of it's a streaming movie. They're worried that that will weigh down the franchise, and it sounds like they're interested in more MonsterVerse films and more films with Dune, in the Dune franchise as well. They're interested in this stuff, but they want it to be theatrical only because that's how franchises stay strong. By keeping Godzilla vs Kong a theatrical only franchise, Legendary believes it will stay a stronger franchise. I don't know how this will work. We have to wait and see what happens with Wonder Woman in order to say one way or another if that's probably accurate or not. If Wonder Woman's really successful, I think everyone's gonna understand in this whole streaming thing, the stigma will go away. But if Wonder Woman isn't successful, I'd worry as well. Legendary also sounds like they may be worried that a vaccine is gonna allow theaters to open up sooner rather than later, and so this is a huge mistake. It's a terrible move because what if theaters are open? And even if not, we can always just delay the movies again. And so if we do that, we can delay the movies until the theatrical experience is healthy and thriving again, and then the movies will be fine. Talent is very upset about the Warner Media move. They're not happy, and talent may strike back by refusing to work for Warner in the future. There are fears that Warner will never be truly honest with people about how their films do, and that we will never really understand what happens due to this release strategy. It's the same way that many other companies currently hide their PVOD numbers, so we don't really know what the current streaming numbers are and what the box office results per se of these movies are. We don't know. We're kept in the dark, and so the fear is that Warner will do that in the future as well, and every movie will either look like a massive disaster or a massive success just simply because they don't tell us. Here's another one from Variety. It's a different article. They're echoing the same sentiment that I just talked about, where due to the hidden numbers of streaming and PVOD, the success or failure of future films is going to be really hard to understand, and so therefore it's going to be impossible to tell which franchises are strong and which franchises are weak at the moment from a public and outside perspective. Only Warner is going to know. They're the only ones who are going to see those numbers. The worry is that the industry will be left so far out of the loop that they won't be able to succeed anymore. And they're also worried that the 3-month theatrical window has now forever been altered, and that there will no longer be a 3-month window for theatrical experiences only. That moving forward is going to be a completely different situation. Here's a few additional notes I have. There were some rumors that Wanda Group was the one who was pushing these buttons. Wanda was looking to get Godzilla vs Kong on streaming. It now looks like that was completely wrong based on the current information from Legendary. For those of you who don't know, Wanda Group owns AMC and Legendary, and so because AMC theaters are not doing well, it seemed like they may need Legendary to do better in order to make up for that. Based on this current info, that sounds like that's not currently the case. They want theaters to succeed, yes, but they also want their films to succeed. They want their films to remain strong so that they can move forward with the franchises in the future. It's possible that AMC could fight back by refusing to play Warner Bros films in theaters. I don't think Godzilla vs Kong will be affected by that because that's also a Legendary film, so that would probably be in theaters. And also, you know, we saw a similar threat be made by AMC with Universal. That fight has been resolved, so by the time Godzilla vs Kong comes out regardless, this whole situation will be smoothed over as best as possible. But yeah, this will forever ruin Warner's reputation as a talent-friendly studio in the eyes of many, many people in the industry, which is sad, but I don't know what exactly the fallout of that will be. We'll have to wait and see. You know, maybe just not as many big name directors will work for them. I don't know. Warner also acted first so that they could be the hero in the eyes of the public, so that there could be no leaks or pushback against them and the public couldn't turn against them before they made the announcement. Now that they made the announcement, they look like the good guys. And to some degree they might be, but we just don't know yet. We just don't know how it's gonna play out. But that's why they did it. Now getting onto the Godzilla vs Kong stuff here. I know, I'm sorry it took till the very end to finally get to the stuff that you wanted. The budget for Godzilla vs Kong has been announced. Not everyone's gonna care, but some people do. The budget has been announced, and before we get to the budget, some people are already freaking out about it. Let me just run you through some numbers. Shin Godzilla's budget was $15 million, and the CGI in that movie is arguably, at times, better than the CG in any other Godzilla movie ever. It's just fantastic. Godzilla 2014 had a $160 million budget, and that's totally cool. Kong Skull Island had a bigger budget of $185 million, and it looked great. Godzilla King of the Monsters had anywhere between $170 to $200 million worth of budget. Some people don't think that the special effects in that film are good. I like them. I don't think they're better than the other two MonsterVerse films, but I like them. I think that the reason they're not as good is because a change in studios occurred, a change in animation studios occurred, and also simply because there was just a lot more going on in that movie. There's a lot more special effects stuff in that movie than there were in the other two MonsterVerse films. So with a budget of relatively the same size of the other MonsterVerse films, it's going to be a little harder to make things look as good as those other movies when you have to spread that budget over a longer period of time. Godzilla King of the Monsters is like a 2-hour monster fight. So yeah, of course, some shots aren't going to look as good as other shots. I think some shots in that movie look amazing, whereas I think some of the other shots just look good enough. I don't think anything in the movie looks bad though. I think everything in the movie looks good. I just don't think it looks as good as something like the ending of Kong Skull Island. The New York Times reported that Godzilla vs Kong has a $155 million budget, 75% produced by Legendary. And that is the common thread, is that we do know Legendary produced 75% of the movie. They put in 75% of the budget. One possible solution here is that Warner Bros could just outright pay the budget back. They could just pay for Godzilla vs Kong, pay off that 75%, and then they would own the whole movie, and now they can do whatever they want with it. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with the whole Legendary situation. But yeah, that is a possibility. And so the New York Times reported that $155 million is the budget, which would make it the lowest MonsterVerse film to date. Variety reported that Godzilla vs Kong has a $160 million budget, putting it even with Godzilla 2014, and so the average is $157 million, which is, again, the lowest of the MonsterVerse, but it's not that much lower. It's basically the same budget that all the other films have had, plus we're back at Weta, who is arguably the best CGI studio in the world right now, and I think the special effects in the teaser we got looked great. They look fantastic, so the visuals look great as far as I'm concerned, and I am hopeful and very optimistic that the special effects in this film will be amazing. I think that the fact that we have a lower budget than both Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters is great news. It means that we can make that budget back easier, and especially because marketing hasn't started yet, so the marketing costs aren't going to be as high as they were for King of the Monsters, which apparently had an absurdly high marketing cost because they did a lot of marketing for that movie that was pretty absurd. Whereas for this one, I mean, they haven't started marketing yet. I mean, we don't know what the ad campaign will look like, but I would imagine it's going to be a normal ad campaign similar to 2014 and Kong Skull Island. And if we're looking at a $157 million budget for the movie, we can make that money back a lot easier, you know? It'll just be more profit going to us once the movie comes out. Going back to the Netflix deal, the movie would have made anywhere between $40 to $93 million in profit had Godzilla vs Kong taken the Netflix deals, depending on if you're going with the $200 million bid or the $250 million bid. It's hard to say what is real, but it would have made somewhere around that amount of money. Probably why they didn't take the deal. They probably would have wanted at least $100 million worth of profit in order to take the deal, and they just didn't get that offer, so they didn't take it. The good news with the Netflix deal is if they did take the Netflix deal, now Netflix would have to advertise the film. It would make the movie look incredibly weak in the eyes of the public, I think, and it would definitely sign the death warrant on the MonsterVerse, because it isn't signed yet. But that deal, the Netflix deal, would have killed the MonsterVerse. Legendary doesn't want that. It doesn't sound like. Warner Bros doesn't want that. It doesn't sound like. And so they're not looking to kill the franchise. They do have a disagreement over what to do with it right now, but I don't know. I think that disagreement's just going to build up and build up over the next couple weeks before finally getting resolved. I think a month from now it'll be all over. We'll see. I think they're going to stick to the day and date release. All right, there you go. There's a little bit more of a studio side to what's happening with Godzilla vs Kong. It's not the news that everyone's really interested in, but it's the news that I wanted to talk about, so it's the news I talked about. Again, I've got all my sources linked down below for you to go check them out if you want them. For those of you who like and subscribe, remember that you guys are the real heroes. For the rest of you, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out. What? You never watched my 66 years of Godzilla tribute? You know it's posted, right? I'm not supposed to give my opinion, but go check it out. And then you can tell me if you like it or not.